The jungle was alive with sound, but not the kind Ryland Drake expected. He ducked behind a jagged rock as the ground shook beneath a distant explosion. Smoke curled into the sky, the smell of scorched metal stinging his nose. Every instinct told him to move, but he froze when a sharp, high-pitched cry cut through the mist. It wasn't human. It wasn't like anything he had heard before. Ryland's pulse jumped. He squinted through the swirling fog and saw it, a creature small but unmistakable. Its skin was pale, almost white, with veins of silver running beneath. It trembled, wings folded tightly against its sides, eyes wide and intelligent, glowing faintly in the dim light. The albino dragon stared at him, fear etched into every line of its tiny frame. Before he could react, a rustle in the underbrush made him tense. Shadows moved unnaturally fast. A pack of alien predators, sleek and jagged, lunged at the dragon. They were faster than any Earth predator he'd known, teeth like shards of glass, eyes locked onto their prey. Without thinking, Ryland sprang from his cover, rifle raised. He fired, the first shot clipping a predator's shoulder, throwing it off balance. The dragon froze and he froze with it. Then another predator leapt and he rolled, dodging its claws. His training kicked in and his mind raced. If he didn't act, both would die. He grabbed a fallen branch, wedged it between two rocks and rigged it as a trap. A predator charged and with a sharp crack, the branch snapped under its weight, sending the creature tumbling down a slope. The dragon hissed and for the first time Ryland saw more than fear in its eyes, curiosity. It tilted its head as if measuring him. "Easy, little one," he whispered, low enough to avoid startling it further. His voice was calm, controlled, but inside, his heart pounded like a drum. He had no idea what kind of creature this was or why it glowed, but one thing was certain: it needed him. And he would not leave it behind. The mist thickened, swallowing the edges of the path. Movement flickered in the fog. Ryland crouched, scanning. There were more predators, he realized with a sinking feeling, and they were closing in faster than before. Every second counted. He glanced at the dragon, it hesitated, wings quivering. Ryland reached out, a steady hand showing it he meant no harm. The dragon took a tentative step toward him, claws clicking softly against wet leaves. He smiled, a brief flash of relief, then froze. A predator burst through the mist, snarling. Ryland fired a precise shot, hitting its leg. It yelped, stumbling back, and he ducked another swipe. The dragon hissed and flapped its wings, startling the predator further. They were small actions, but they bought them seconds. Seconds could mean life. "Come on," Ryland urged. He motioned toward a narrow canyon, barely wide enough for the dragon to squeeze through. Together they ran, predators snapping at their heels. The dragon stumbled once and Ryland grabbed its tail, pulling it forward with a strength that surprised him. It shivered but didn't resist. Trust had begun to form, fragile but real. They reached the canyon entrance and Ryland's lungs burned. The narrow walls forced the predators to slow, giving him a tactical advantage. He hurled a rock at a loose boulder above. It tumbled down, crashing near the largest predator. The creature yelped and backed off, startled. The dragon let out a tiny, excited squeal and clung to Ryland's side. Small victories, but they mattered. As they caught their breath, the dragon turned to face him. Its glowing eyes seemed to study him, almost understanding. Then a low growl echoed from the canyon's shadow. Ryland's stomach sank. Another predator, or something else entirely, was coming. This one moved differently, heavier, deliberate, smarter. The mist seemed to thicken around it, hiding its full shape. Ryland crouched, placing himself between the dragon and the approaching threat. His mind raced. He didn't have time to think, only to act. The dragon's wings twitched nervously, and he patted its side. "Stay close. Don't let go," he whispered. Its small head pressed against his chest, trusting him completely in that heartbeat. Then the shadow lunged, faster than any creature he had seen so far. Ryland barely had time to raise his rifle. He fired. The mist swallowed the sound, but the creature faltered, revealing its pale, spiny silhouette. Something about it felt different, intelligent, calculating. This was no ordinary predator. The dragon's glowing eyes widened and Ryland's heart skipped. Whatever was coming was the start of something bigger, something far more dangerous than he could imagine. And now, the little albino dragon was completely in his hands, literally and figuratively. The forest seemed to hold its breath. And Ryland realized, with a mix of dread and determination, that this was only the beginning. Ryland's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The narrow canyon twisted like a snake, and he kept the albino dragon close, its fragile body pressed against his chest. Every step was cautious, every shadow made his pulse jump. The mist hung heavy, hiding dangers he couldn't yet see. Then he heard it, the metallic clatter of distant boots. Human boots. Not friendly ones. Mercenaries. Alien poachers. The same type he had seen on the scanners during the last skirmish. Their voices were rough, shouting orders in a language he barely recognized. Spread out. Don't let it escape this sector. Ryland's grip tightened on the dragon. Its small body shivered, wings quivering. He whispered, "It's okay. We'll get through this." His voice was steady but his mind raced. The canyon offered some cover, but it would not be enough if the poachers were armed and organized. A sharp snap of a branch made him freeze. A poacher's shadow emerged from the mist, rifle raised. Ryland reacted instinctively, rolling to the side and swinging his weapon. A shot rang out, missing him by inches, tearing a chunk of rock from the canyon wall. The dragon squealed, startled, and Ryland flinched, realizing that every action now endangered the creature he had sworn to protect. He ducked behind a boulder, scanning the canyon walls. The path was narrow, perfect for traps if he used them correctly. His mind raced, he needed something quick, something clever. His eyes landed on a hanging vine, thick and twisted. A plan sparked. He grabbed it and tied it to a sharp rock above the canyon floor, creating a trip line. Not perfect but enough to slow one pursuer. The poachers advanced, cautious but confident. They had weapons that could pierce reinforced armor. Ryland counted them, at least 5 moving in coordinated steps. He waited. A predator-like snarl echoed from deeper in the mist. Ryland realized the jungle itself seemed alive, feeding off the fear and uncertainty. The first poacher stepped onto the trip line. Ryland released the vine. It snapped with a loud crack, catching the poacher off balance. He stumbled into a jagged rock, screaming as the others rushed forward. Small victories, but they gave him breathing room. The dragon watched him, head tilting as if assessing his skill. A tiny spark of trust, and a small smile appeared on Ryland's dirt-streaked face. "Good. Keep moving," he murmured, patting its side. They continued deeper into the canyon. The mist thickened, almost choking, hiding every potential threat. Suddenly, a low rumble rolled through the ground. Ryland froze, scanning. Not from above, not behind, beneath. A fissure in the rock floor began to crack, jagged lines spreading like a spiderweb. The canyon was unstable. One wrong step could bury them both. He grabbed the dragon, jumping across the widening fissure. Its claws scratched his armor, tiny sparks of fear and relief mingling. They landed hard on the other side. Ryland felt the canyon shift beneath his feet, loose rock tumbling into the chasm below. A scream erupted from the mist. One of the poachers had fallen. A tiny victory but fleeting. The others regrouped quickly, rifles aimed, scanning the canyon. Ryland realized they were smarter than he thought. They had seen his traps work and were adapting. He needed more than tricks, he needed strategy. He spotted a natural ledge above, just wide enough for him and the dragon. Climbing would be dangerous, but the high ground could give him control. "We climb," he whispered. The dragon hesitated, wings fluttering nervously. He held out a hand, encouraging. Step by step, he pulled them both upward, muscles straining, heart hammering. Halfway up, a poacher fired. Ryland ducked instinctively, the bullet grazing the rock near his head. The dragon squealed and pressed into his chest. He gritted his teeth and continued climbing. One slip could mean death. Another shot tore through the ledge beside him, dislodging rocks that clattered down toward the poachers. Reflexively, they ducked, giving him the last few feet to the ledge. Ryland dropped to a crouch, panting, and set the dragon down. It blinked, unhurt but trembling, then nuzzled against him. "We're okay. For now," he said. Small reassurance, but it mattered. Survival was a reward in itself. From the ledge, he could see the poachers regrouping below, scanning, frustrated but determined. One of them held a scanner, pointing it toward the canyon. The dragon hissed lowly, almost warning him. Ryland's mind clicked. They were tracking more than sound, they were looking for life signatures. The albino dragon's glow could betray them. He quickly dragged a few loose rocks to create a makeshift cover, angling them to block their thermal scans. Small ingenuity, but it worked. The poachers paused, scanning again, unable to see them clearly. The dragon's glow dimmed slightly, almost as if sensing safety. Ryland allowed himself a breath, but he knew the reprieve would be short. The jungle wasn't done with them, and neither were the poachers. Every move had consequences. One wrong choice and they could be surrounded, trapped, or worse. Then he noticed movement deeper in the canyon, faster than the poachers, silent but deliberate. Something large, heavier than any predator he had seen, was coming. Its shape shifted in the mist, jagged and spiny. The dragon's glowing eyes widened in fear. Ryland's stomach tightened. He didn't know what it was, but instinct screamed that it wasn't hunting like a normal predator. He crouched, readying himself. The dragon pressed against him, trust and fear mingling in its small body. "Stay close. Whatever comes," he whispered. The mist moved as the shadow advanced, and Ryland realized the danger was far from over. This time, survival alone might not be enough. Ryland pressed himself against the canyon wall, heart hammering. The shadowy shape moving through the mist was unlike anything he had faced before. It was huge, far bigger than any jungle predator, with thick spines arching along its back and limbs that ended in curved, razor-like claws. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the albino dragon's pale light, and it seemed intelligent. Calculating. The dragon pressed closer to him, wings fluttering nervously. Ryland held it tightly. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The creature paused, tilting its head as if aware of them. Then it let out a low, rumbling growl, testing the air. Ryland could feel the ground vibrate beneath the sound. One wrong move and it could crush them both. He needed an escape. His mind raced. The canyon twisted ahead, a narrow path leading upward, but it was unstable, jagged rocks jutting out. He risked a glance at the dragon, small, vulnerable, glowing faintly, and knew he couldn't leave it behind. Whatever this shadow was, it was far from normal, and the albino dragon's fate was tied to it. "Follow me," he muttered and took a careful step forward. The dragon hesitated, claws scraping the rock. Ryland crouched lower, speaking softly. "I've got you. Trust me." It flinched, then mirrored his movements, keeping close. Step by step, they inched along the canyon, the shadow stalking silently behind. Suddenly, the path widened into a hidden cave, almost invisible behind a curtain of moss and hanging vines. Ryland's pulse quickened. The cave smelled faintly of minerals and damp earth, but there was something else, a faint, electric hum. He stepped inside, cautiously, the dragon pressing against his chest. What he saw made him freeze. The cave floor was lined with dozens of eggs, glowing faintly like lanterns in the dim light. Some had cracked shells, dark stains around them. The albino dragon's wings twitched, and it let out a soft squeal, nudging one of the unhatched eggs. Its glow seemed to pulse in response. Ryland's mind spun. These are dragon eggs," he whispered almost to himself. But why were they here? Why abandoned? And why was the albino dragon alone? He crouched, examining a partially cracked egg. Inside, a faint movement, a small, fragile dragonling struggled, trying to emerge. The sight tugged at something deep inside him. Protecting this species wasn't optional, it was imperative. Then the rumble returned. The shadow he had seen outside had followed them. Its massive form pressed at the cave entrance, claws scraping the rock, forcing dust and pebbles to fall. Ryland glanced at the albino dragon, which now stood protectively over the eggs. Its small body trembled, but there was determination in its glowing eyes. A voice cut through the mist outside. "There. The eggs. Don't let it escape." Mercenaries. Ryland's stomach sank. They had tracked them here. The poachers weren't just after the albino dragon. They were hunting the entire species. Extinction-level hunters. Ryland had no time to think. He grabbed a loose rock, weighing it in his hand. Then another. He positioned them near the cave mouth. If he could trigger a collapse, he might buy enough time to evacuate the dragon and the eggs. It was dangerous. The rock could crush the eggs or the dragon if misjudged. But hesitation would be worse. He glanced at the dragon. Its wings twitched. Its small head tilted, almost urging him to act. That tiny gesture, a sign of trust, was enough. Ryland hurled the largest rock, striking a weakened stalactite above the cave. It cracked, then split, sending a cascade of smaller rocks toward the cave entrance. The shadow growled, stumbling back. Dust filled the cave, but the dragon huddled protectively over the eggs. Ryland exhaled sharply. Small victory but fleeting. The mercenaries were regrouping outside, weapons raised, scanning. One shouted orders, and Ryland realized they weren't just opportunistic. They were professionals, trained killers with advanced tech. He had to move fast. "Come on," he whispered to the dragon, gesturing toward a narrow tunnel he had noticed along the side of the cave. The dragon hesitated, then stepped forward, trust complete. Ryland scooped it up, moving carefully over the eggs. Some cracked further under his careful steps, but none were destroyed. He could feel the tiny life within trembling against his palms. The tunnel was tight, winding, and dark. Ryland's every nerve screamed caution. One misstep, one fall and everything, dragon eggs and his own life, could be lost. Yet the adrenaline sharpened him. He moved like a shadow, silent but purposeful, the dragon glowing faintly in his grip. A faint sound made him stop. The shadow, something bigger than any predator he had ever known, was at the cave entrance, pacing slowly as if testing him, waiting. Its growl was deep, resonating in the rock walls. Ryland realized it wasn't mindless. It was calculating, guarding, almost expecting something. Then he noticed the carvings on the cave walls. Strange, alien glyphs etched into the stone, glowing faintly in rhythm with the dragon's light. Memories, warnings, a history of this species. The albino dragon nudged his hand, almost pointing to the carvings, urging him to see. Ryland's pulse quickened. These weren't just eggs. This was a remnant of a lost civilization. The albino dragon wasn't merely abandoned, it was the last of its kind in a world that had almost forgotten them. And now, with the shadow outside and the mercenaries hunting them, he had a choice: leave with the dragon and survive, or risk everything to protect this last hope. He clenched his jaw, determination hardening. He wouldn't abandon them. He couldn't. Whatever came next, he would face it. One human, one albino dragon, and a tunnel leading into darkness that promised danger, but also hope. As they disappeared into the winding passage, the shadow outside shifted, revealing spines and claws far larger than before. Its growl echoed, almost a warning. And then, from deeper in the cave, another faint movement. Something alive, watching. Something older. Something that had survived worse than humans or poachers. Ryland realized with a jolt that this fight was only beginning, and the real threat had not yet revealed itself. The tunnel narrowed, walls slick with moisture, forcing Ryland to hug the albino dragon close. Its wings brushed against the stone, trembling, but there was determination in its glowing eyes. Every step echoed, a reminder that behind them, the mercenaries and some other, darker force were not far off. Ryland's mind raced. They couldn't outrun this. The tunnel twisted sharply, then opened into a cavern large enough for the dragon to spread its wings. He set it down gently. The dragon's body tensed, and its faint glow pulsed as if sensing the energy of the space around them. Strange markings glimmered on the cavern walls, glyphs similar to those in the previous chamber. He didn't understand them, but instinct told him this place held power, history, perhaps even weapons. A sudden screech made them both jump. From the cavern ceiling, a massive predator, larger than anything Ryland had seen, dropped like a shadow from above. Its spines bristled, eyes locking on the albino dragon. Ryland's hands went to his rifle, but he hesitated. This was no ordinary fight. The creature was fast, intelligent, and every strike could crush them. "Listen to me," he whispered. "We fight smart. Not hard." He scanned the cavern. Stalactites hung precariously, jagged rocks littered the floor, and narrow ledges climbed high along the walls. He needed an advantage. A plan formed. He picked up a chunk of stone, tossing it toward a stalactite. It quivered but didn't fall. Another throw. Another. Then, with a precise aim, he struck a cluster of weaker stone. The stalactite snapped, plummeting toward the predator. It roared, leaping aside, but the smaller rocks distracted it enough for Ryland to grab the dragon and dart to the cavern ledge. The dragon hesitated, then flapped its small wings, following him with surprising agility. They reached the ledge just as the mercenaries spilled into the cavern, rifles scanning. Ryland crouched low, rifle ready, mind calculating every angle. He couldn't outrun them, but he could make the cavern a trap. A poacher fired. The shot ricocheted off the wall, splinters hitting the floor. Ryland rolled behind cover and returned fire, disabling one mercenary with a well-aimed shot. Another tried to flank, but Ryland triggered a natural hazard. A loose rockfall that sent pebbles tumbling into the path, tripping the poacher. Small victories but necessary. The massive predator lunged, claws scraping the cavern floor, aiming for the dragon. Ryland leapt, swinging a rope he had tied earlier, wrapping it around one of the creature's spines. The predator thrashed violently, but the rope held, slowing it just enough for the dragon to strike. Tiny flames burst from its mouth, weak but precise. The predator recoiled, confused. Ryland's heart pounded. This wasn't a battle of strength, it was a battle of wit, timing, and courage. The dragon's confidence grew. Another flame shot from its mouth, narrowly hitting a poacher who had advanced too close. Ryland grabbed a falling stalagmite, swinging it at the remaining mercenaries, knocking two off balance. Their formation collapsed, leaving gaps he exploited. Each action had consequences. Each small victory mattered. But then a louder growl echoed. From the shadows of the cavern emerged another creature, far larger than the first, almost like a shadow of the cavern itself. Its spines shimmered in the dim light, jagged as broken glass. It was not hunting, it was judging, calculating, and testing. The dragon hissed, backing into Rylan. He held it close. "Stay with me. You trust me, right?" he whispered. The dragon nodded in its own way, pressing its body against his chest. They were partners now, dependent on each other. Rylan noticed a series of ledges above. If they could reach higher ground, the predator's size would work against it. He hoisted the dragon, gripping its legs and wings carefully, and climbed. Rocks tumbled down, striking the predator and partially disorienting it. He could see the mercenaries faltering below, frustrated and panicked. Rylan's quick thinking had bought them a moment. At the top ledge, he found a narrow passage leading deeper into the cavern. One more calculated risk. He placed the dragon gently, motioning for it to follow. It leapt with agility, trusting him completely. Rylan moved after it, his armor scraping against the rough stone, every nerve screaming caution. Behind them, chaos erupted. The first predator was pinned by falling rocks. The second creature, massive and intelligent, roared in frustration. The mercenaries fired blindly, but the cavern's twisting layout worked against them. Each shot revealed their position, giving Rylan the upper hand. He turned to the dragon, wings fully spread now, glowing brighter in the dark. "Ready?" he asked. Its tiny roar was fierce and confident. Together, they sprinted into the passage, rocks and dust showering behind them, leaving confusion and panic in their wake. As they disappeared into darkness, a final micro-cliffhanger hit. One mercenary, injured but alive, glanced toward the shadows. A faint glow pulsed deep within the cavern walls, as if responding to the dragon's presence. Something ancient, something alive watched them, and it wasn't human, predator, or dragon. Rylan didn't notice. He couldn't. Ahead lay unknown tunnels, uncertain dangers, and the faint promise of survival. The albino dragon pressed against his chest, glowing steadily. Together they had fought impossible odds and survived. But the real challenge, the one that could change everything, was still waiting. And deep in the shadows, the ancient presence stirred, aware of the human who dared to save a species from extinction. The tunnel opened into a hidden valley bathed in pale, early morning light. Mist rolled gently across the jagged rocks, giving the place an otherworldly glow. Rylan Drake set the albino dragon down carefully. It shook its wings experimentally, then nuzzled him briefly, a silent thank you that carried more weight than words ever could. He took a deep breath, letting himself feel the first moment of relief in hours. The mercenaries were gone, either trapped in the cavern behind them or too cautious to follow. The massive predator remained in the shadows of the cliffs, growling low, but it had not pursued. For now they were safe. The dragon's glowing eyes swept the valley, then settled on a cluster of unhatched eggs hidden in a small rock alcove. Its wings fluttered softly, protective. Rylan knelt, examining the fragile shells. Most had survived the chaos, though a few bore cracks. Life persisted against all odds. He smiled, a mixture of pride and wonder. Humanity had made a difference. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered to the dragon. "Not now. Not ever." The albino dragon let out a soft, melodic trill in response. Rylan realized something remarkable. It had started to understand him. Not words exactly, but intention. Trust. Connection. He had earned it step by step, choice by choice, risk by risk. He crouched beside the eggs, gently touching a glowing shell. Heat radiated from within, faint but undeniable. Life. Fragile life that had been abandoned by a world that had nearly forgotten it. Rylan's chest tightened. He had a responsibility now, more than survival. He had to protect them, to guide them, to ensure that the albino dragon and its kin could thrive. A sudden rustle in the mist made him freeze. The dragon stiffened, wings spreading defensively. Out of the haze emerged a small creature, pale like the albino, its scales shimmering softly in the dawn. Another dragonling. It looked around, unsure, and then flitted toward its kin, wings trembling in cautious delight. Rylan's heart soared. They were not alone. There was hope. From the cliffs above, the massive predator watched silently, then turned and retreated. It was not a foe to be vanquished but a guardian of its domain. Rylan understood instinctively that their survival had earned respect from a force far older and wiser than himself. Humanity had not conquered. Humanity had acted with courage and empathy, and it had been enough. He sat on a rock, letting the dragon climb onto his shoulder. Its glow pulsed gently, synced with the new life around them. For the first time he allowed himself to reflect. Every decision, every risk, every calculated move in the canyon, in the tunnels, and in the cavern had mattered. Each small victory, the fallen poacher, the rock traps, the improvised stalactite strike, had led to this moment. Humans could shine, even in the shadow of impossible odds. The albino dragon chirped, nudging him toward the eggs. He looked around, realizing that the valley, hidden from human eyes for centuries, was a sanctuary. Sunlight caught the edges of the cavern, glinting off the pale scales of the eggs and the dragonlings. A new dawn, literally and figuratively. Ryland's mind wandered to the mercenaries. They would not stop searching, not completely. He would need a plan, a base, allies. But for now the immediate threat was gone. And more importantly, he had shown the albino dragon, an entire species, that humans could be brave, compassionate, and determined. That one person's courage could tip the balance of life and death. A sudden shimmer in the mist caught his eye. From the far side of the valley, a faint glow pulsed rhythmically, different from the dragon's luminescence. He squinted, curiosity tightening his chest. Whatever it was, it moved with purpose, almost intelligent. Not a predator. Something else. Something waiting. The dragon stiffened, ears twitching. Ryland placed a steady hand on its neck. "I know," he murmured. "We'll see it together. But not yet. Not until we're ready." The albino dragon let out a small, determined trill and flapped its wings, brushing against him in silent agreement. Together they were stronger. Together they had survived impossible odds. And together they would face what came next. Ryland glanced at the eggs, then at the dragonlings. The first signs of a colony forming. The fragile creatures huddled close, some venturing small, awkward steps. Life persisted. The mist shimmered, sunlight breaking through in shafts that illuminated the pale scales. It was a fragile beauty, a reminder of why humans fought, why they survived, why courage mattered. He stood looking across the valley. The day was beginning and so was a new chapter. But the pulsing glow in the distance reminded him that this was only the beginning. Bigger mysteries waited. Ancient forces, untold dangers, and untapped knowledge lay ahead. Ryland straightened, taking a deep breath. The albino dragon perched on his shoulder, wings stretching wide. He felt its trust, its hope, its determination mirrored his own. Humanity had a role here. Not as conquerors but as protectors. Not as masters but as champions. And somewhere in the mist, the faint glow pulsed again, promising the next challenge, the next revelation, the next adventure. Ryland smiled, heart steady, gaze forward. Whatever came he would face it. And this time he wouldn't be alone.